All right, part two. In the last video, we talked about the parallels between Christianity and climate change. We'll now continue talking about that. And part two is part one was the sin. Part two is the apocalypse. I think it would be too long of a list to come up with every time that man has predicted the end of the world, or some like super significant event that is certain to split the mankind into, the history of mankind into before and after. Christians have the second coming of Christ, for example. Muslims have the Judgment Day. Jews have the coming of Messiah, that they don't believe to be Jesus, by the way. Also, Christians have this other, in America, Christians have this other idea called rapture. Rapture is when all the people who believe in Jesus are just one day lifted up to the skies to be with Jesus, and the only people left here on earth are non-believers. And if you think that this sounds wacky, well, there are millions of people who believe in rapture. There was a series of books called Left Behind some 20 years ago, and it was like super popular. It might still be popular, I don't know. But rapture is a real thing to a lot of people. And the point is that there is this super significant event that is approaching. And throughout history, it has been predicted by religious figures to be coming soon, to be approaching. It's upon us. It's coming soon. Here are the signs, and that's the way it's been. And if you think about why it has to be coming soon, it's because if it's not coming soon, then I don't care, right? Somebody tells you, oh, the end of the world, or Jesus is coming 300 years from now, or Judgment Day is 300 years from now. You're like, well, I'll be dead, my kids will be dead, whatever, okay, good to know, thanks. But if it's like, oh, the end of the world is upon us, here are the signs, it could be like in the next 10 years. Then all of a sudden you're like, well, shit, I'm 25. So, I mean, I'm not even, like, by 35, that's close, That's close enough that all of a sudden it's super relevant. And periodically in Christianity, the coming of Jesus is being brought up, and it's always brought up as this thing that's coming soon, right? It's been, coming soon for like 2,000 years now, and it's still coming soon. You can't just slack off or take a nap or something, because whoop, here it comes. Okay, you gotta be on point. You gotta be on point as a good Christian, because you're not gonna have much time to correct, for all your sins. And in climate change, we have this idea. Now, climate change is a very young religion. I believe it's only started in like 1960s. But there too, we already have had these predictions by the priests of the climate change religion, the first class of priests that were these meteorology professors, who predicted in like 1960s that by like 1980 there will be no ice in Antarctica or some shit like that. And then periodically, as we moved forward, they kept coming up with similar predictions for a similar time frame, somewhere 10 to 20 years of a distance. Al Gore famously back in mid 2000s predicted like that 10 years from now there's going to be I forget what, but some sort of a horrible thing, like some sort of horrible condition for our planet. And that was like back in back in like 2004, and the doom date that he picked was like 2013. Well, I remember that day, and absolutely nothing happened. And the more important thing is nobody even mentioned it on the news. It was never made. Like there was a lot of hoopla about it when it was mentioned, but nobody really held his feet to the fire when this doomsday that he picked just came and went, and nothing freaking happened. And nobody said, "Hey Al, you know, I went skiing. Like, we still got snow. It's cold as balls. Like, what's up? Where's your doomsday?" Uh, the media that were hyping this date, nobody, nobody like held his feet to the fire. Nobody asked him to, you know, hold a press conference and explain how, you know, why we didn't get this doomsday prediction. Everybody just forgot about it and moved on. But here's the thing: we keep getting these predictions, and they're all very scary sounding, and we keep falling for this shit. This shit doesn't happen, but we don't take that into account. We're just looking toward the next prediction. We're just as mesmerized as we were with all these other previous predictions. And the most recent one is what, like 2030 or 2032? Like, we're gonna be, like, if we continue what we continue now, it's gonna be irreversible. At least they've gotten smarter about these predictions. We're gonna reach the point of no return, they said. At least they got smarter. What I mean is, you know, Al Gore predicted something specific to happen. Here, they're saying, well, we're gonna reach the point of no return. Well, how do you know you're at the point of no return? Like, what I don't think they identified any specific watermarks for how we know that this terrible scenario that they're talking about has arrived. They just say we'll be at the point of no return. Well, then if somebody decides to maybe confront them in 2032, anybody who still gives a damn about this in 2032, because usually people have such short memories that by the time this thing comes around, nobody's there to actually bring this up. But if it is coming around, if somebody is to approach them in 2032, and they'll say, yeah, well, we would have gotten to the point of no return, but then we made, you know, we cut the carbon emissions, and therefore now we're not at the point of no return. They can always, they'll leave themselves in out, but the point is, just like the end of the world or the coming of Jesus or whatever in Christianity keeps getting predicted with regularity in every generation and keeps getting postponed, and people don't wise up to it, and they just keep listening to the next prediction. Just so we have in climate change, right? The prediction of apocalypse. There's climopolis, or climocopolis, whatever the hell it is. That it's supposed to keep coming, right? It's supposed to keep coming. The date shows up, nothing happens. The polar bears are kicking ass like more than ever before, eating up all the seals and shit, and nobody bats an eye. Everybody's just like, listen to the next prediction. You know, if we were that stupid with other things, we would be in so much trouble. Like, for example, if somebody kept making a prediction, like for your investments, and they kept making a wrong prediction and you kept losing money, I mean, would you still listen to them? Would you still turn to them next time? No, after you lost money 2 or 3 times, you're like, forget you. Like, I'm not listening to you anymore. I'm moving on. But for some reason, we don't do that with these doomsday predictors. We just get all all frantic about this latest prediction, and then when nothing happens, we don't take that into account. We just line up to listen to the next guy and the next guy and the next guy. So I decided to also make a prediction. I'm going to make a prediction for the year 2032. What's going to happen is absolutely nothing. I mean, yeah, a lot of shit will happen, but none of this like cataclysmic shit. You know, Manhattan is not going to be underwater. Polar bears are going to be still tearing shit up. You're still going to need a coat and gloves and shit and scarf in the winter. People are still going to go skiing, and all this other stuff that we always had will continue in 2032. So My prediction is nothing is gonna happen. Oh, forgot one more thing. So the doomsday that they identified is gonna come and go, and people who are hyping it will be nowhere to be found. They'll not mention it. The media will not. The media that was like hyping it all up right now, they're not gonna bring them on to their channels. They're not gonna ask him any questions. They're not gonna ask him to explain why the scary shit that he talked about didn't happen. And everybody will just forget about it. It'll be just another day or just another year, another month, whatever the time frame they gave them. But what will happen is another scary prediction will come out. For the year about maybe 2042, 2045, and it's going to be scary, man. It's going to be like, it could be climate, it could be some virus, it could be meteorite striking the earth. It's going to be some scary shit. And you'll have all these scientists, all these people with PhD next to their name, sounding smart, sounding authoritative, talking about this, how they have like artificial intelligence model predicting this. And never mind, we got all this shit wrong every single time, but listen, we're gonna get it right this time, right? The artificial intelligence is like smarter than ever. It's more intelligent than ever, just as artificial, but we got super smart people working on it, and it's just bulletproof prediction. So it's coming. Be afraid. And yeah, so that's the climate change apocalypse, just like the biblical apocalypse that supposedly is approaching and approaching and approaching, and so far hasn't happened, and doesn't really show any visible signs of coming. But even if it doesn't show up, they will find a way to explain it too, if you really make them. Because you see, climate change works in mysterious ways. And that's for part 3. Part 3 will be called Works in Mysterious Ways.